A lot of times, when you have a full size wing, you're wanting a day that has a lot of thermal activity. You guys would call it turbulent in a small fixed wing. We are looking for that turbulence because that's the hot air going up. Thanks for being able to make it.
Yeah, buddy. You know what? It was a little bit of a rush. I got back from my trip from work, and I put my plane into an annual. So these mechanics, whenever you get a chance to get it done, and they say let's do it, then you go for it. You don't schedule anything because things just come up on these guys, and you may never get back in, in a schedule. So
I
I,
understand.
I got my plane out. I went flying with a buddy of mine, and that's another story. I've got this little plane, and a friend of mine's like, "Yeah, I want to go up. I want to go up. Yeah, it looks so cool." I did. I take them. I took them up to Wisconsin. I live in Illinois, Chicago suburbs, and
Oh, cool.
we went for breakfast to a little place. And as we're walking to the restaurant, the guy's like, I could see him getting a little queasy. The guy just lets it go. And I'm like, oh no, here we go. But he's like, I'm fine now. I'm fine now. I think I got it out. I'm like, all right. So we had breakfast, or I had breakfast. He had a little bit. And then we go back. And it's not rough. It's, a little bumpy, but nice day. And I keep talking to him. Everything good? And he's like, yeah, everything's good. Everything's good. And then as we're coming into an approach and kind of setting up for a landing, I see him just, and I'm like, oh no, open the window. And thank God it's not a fast airplane. The window's open, and he just, yeah. So he spent a little time after cleaning up, but yeah, enough of that excitement. But yeah, I got back in the hangar. I had some things to do, and I'm like, oh man, I'm rushing. And the place is about 45 minutes away. So thank God I wasn't in traffic and I made it. But yeah, so here we go. Jake, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate your time. And tell me a little bit about yourself. So you're from Alaska, Anchorage?
Well, I'm originally from the Midwest. I grew up kind of in the tri-state area around the bottom part of Wisconsin. You might know where Galena, Illinois is,
Oh yeah.
kind of
Perfect.
around there. Um, settled. We moved around a lot in the Midwest. We kind of settled in Duluth, Minnesota, at the very top of
Yeah.
Wisconsin. Then when I was 18, I moved to Alaska and have been up here ever since. And I moved up here I wanted to be a guy welding on the pipeline, and kind of made that happen. I've been in the welding industry ever since. And being in the welding industry, you get really into flying different modes of transportation. Like I was flying a helicopter to this rig offshore, and that really piqued my interest. And I started doing some helicopter training, and I only got about 10 hours, 15 hours into it before the ex-wife put an end to that because that's pretty expensive. Um, Ex-wife. So yeah. So then I got a divorce, and I was going to start skydiving like crazy. And it was during COVID, and all the centers were closed for COVID. And I had a friend who was a paragliding pilot, kind of guy that you wouldn't really expect to be a paragliding pilot because he was a heavier set dude. So he was like, "Well, why don't you just try paragliding? See if that school is open." And I was like, maybe I should try that. And the next day, I went out with an instructor, and we did like 8 hours of training, and I made it off of this little tiny hill on the first day at like sunset on the beach, like just magic Alaska moment. And I only flew for like 2 seconds, and but I had the time of my life, and my whole life has just been completely head over heels in love with paragliding ever since. And I've been flying for since 2020, so almost a full 6 years at this point.
How old were you when you started?
34 now, so 28.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I started flying when I was 20. 25, 26, and yeah, I'm 52 now, so time flies, man.
Yeah,
Goes fast.
literally.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's once you get that bug, right? Then that's
Yeah,
all there is.
once you've been a person who's flown anything before, your whole life is completely changed, and we all kind of have this collective craziness we all
Yeah.
share.
Yeah, tell me, definitely went in the summertime though, right?
Oh, I'm flying all year long.
Well, I know, but your first flight, tell me it was a little warmer.
Yeah, it was in the summer. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I was based in Anchorage for last 5 years. I moved down to Louisville, Kentucky, but I
Oh,
was based up
cool.
there. Yeah. So I was in Anchorage at least twice, 3 times a month. Um, yeah, so I know about the summer and the winter. But yeah, that's pretty hardcore. I mean, Anchorage still temperatures are decent when it's not howling
Yeah,
winds versus like Fairbanks, right? Because that's just a little
yeah.
extreme.
Gross. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I grew up in Minnesota. Was like Fairbanks, really hot and really cold. But yeah, Anchorage is blessed with some great weather, and we're blessed with some really good mountains and really good access to paragliding. And, just aviation in general is just so romantically tied to the Alaska culture that every pilot needs to come up to Alaska and like rent something. If you have any kind of license, come rent a little something. You got to do it.
Yeah, I was just, I mean, a while back, because I do this podcast. It started, um, bilingual, so I do it in Polish, but I had one of these guys and I sent him a video driving around Lake Hood. And I just said, hey, man, take a look at this. Because, if you like airplanes, just, just keep
Yeah,
watching this video. And I'm driving around. It's not even a half of this lake. There's got to be at least 1,000 or more airplanes on here that people know about. And I go, just imagine having access to this and where you can go from here. And when we fly, we coming on into to the airport, how much traffic there is below us, and then continuously looking at targets because they're the ones that are actually that have a transponder, because there's many that don't. And just the flying part of that region is incredible. So yeah, you
yeah.
must have
Somebody
nice.
told me that Lake Hood is the busiest civilian water airport in the world.
I
I
would
don't know if
say
that's true or not,
I,
but
I
I
would I
think it
would
might
say
be.
one and the other, yeah, at the same time, because it's incredible. So, and I think the control tower also from the main airport controls that too. So you've got, imagine having all these 747s coming in cargo from, China, wherever, Asia, and then and you've got these little airplanes buzzing around. So it's just,
Yeah, there's a lot going on in a small little
yeah,
area right there.
cool. All right, so you were 28 when you started, and once you had that first flight, how quickly did you get into it? Did you decide? I'm sure it was like, as soon as you started flying, you're like, oh hell, I'm gonna do this. So
Yeah, I've always been a pretty outdoorsy, adventurous guy. I was a backcountry snowboarder, skier forever, and I was really big into rock climbing at that point and motorcycles and all this stuff. So when I actually got to paragliding, I was like, this is the safest thing I've ever done. And I, was freshly divorced, so I was just, down in the dumps completely. And paragliding was something I could do every day. There was a whole new community of people who had never met in my previous life. Because I was married for 10 years. I got married young, and when spend that much time with somebody, your whole life is like wrapped around your family and your wife at the time. So having like a whole new set of friends to go along with this new hobby and all these mountains that we have. I was immediately, almost every day, out in the mountains training and flying. And my instructor had also gone through just a horrible movie style divorce. So he was like my sad boy sensei. And we just, I always said yes whenever my instructor saw a window. So that basically meant we were going at least 5 times a week.
wow,
So basically, I've been flying 1 to 200 times a year ever since 2020, which means I'm out in the mountains 1 to 200 times a year. That's a lot of time. So it's just completely taken over my life, and it's just a great time.
Yeah, I mean, the time I could see the same thing. I work, I fly, but when I get in that little airplane, it's like the time stops, right? You don't hear anybody. You don't have to
Yeah.
listen to anybody. It's your little time, your little world, and you completely get away. It's a nice little separation from normal life, right?
Yeah.
Um, cool. So then looking at equipment, because I've had one guy on here. He flies. He's a Polish guy, but he flies in Qatar, and he's got also a lot of videos on Instagram,
Cool.
and so he flies under their little flag, and he's an instructor there as well. But it, the whole idea of just paragliding, you're there, you just basically you versus the wind, right? I mean, how you coordinate all that, and how does that go into like training? How do you start off with something like that?
Well, there's like kind of two routes or three routes people usually go. People will be full size paragliding, which is what people think paragliding is. Um, speed wings, which are very small, high performance paragliders, similar to like a skydiving canopy in size. Or people will have powered paragliders with like the fan on their back. Most everybody starts out on a full size paraglider, has a career in that sort of department, and then maybe they transition to smaller wings. But as far as the equipment, I fly basically everything. I'm mostly a Speedwing guy these days, though. Or if I'm flying a full size paraglider, it's usually with the dog in tandem.
Yeah, it's another thing I'm going to ask you about because I've got one of those Malinois, so I can imagine
Oh,
how.
sick!
Yeah,
Great
yeah,
dogs, the only
yeah,
dogs in my
yes,
mind.
psychos, but great dogs. Yeah,
Hey, we're
Just-
psychos.
yeah,
I mean, honestly,
yeah. So tell me, if when you said the full size, is that something like? Could I compare that to getting my private pilot license, and I'm flying something very basic that I can have a lot
yeah,
of control with, and the margin is quite high?
the margin is quite high on a full size wing, but you run the risk of collapses a lot more on that size of wing. But then also within that category, uh, wings are rated based on the the way they handle a collapse and the way they recover from a collapse. So usually the paradox with full size paragliding is you want a high performance wing that glides really far and climbs really well, like a sailplane. We fly the same thermals in ridge lift, and we're not getting into mountain waves. That's a little bit higher altitude than what we can go in. But uh, when you get into a higher performance wing, your rate of collapse is going to get much higher. But your standard everyday pilot is flying a wing that is very safe. It only flies about 15 miles an hour. You can take off in about 3 or 4 steps forward. You're never going to throw your reserve parachute out because you could fly your whole entire career without having a collapse. It's that bad. Or if you do have a collapse, it reinflates so quick, it's like a second, and you're like, "Oh, what was that noise? Oh, well, it was a collapse." It's usually a non-issue event at all.
Okay. And then, so your first day when you show up, what, how does that look like training wise? Do you have to go through sort of I mean, do you just jump right into flying, or is that,
You spend most you spend about 40 hours at least on the ground with some wind, like maybe 3 to 5, maybe 10 miles an hour to very most of wind in your face, and you're just on the ground controlling the wing and just testing things out, like where it would stall. We say kiting is flying because you can really explore the whole spectrum of what your wing can do in the air. And most of the times when you're at a place like this, it's at a very small, like sledding hill. So if you wanted to maybe take a couple steps and run forward, you could maybe get like a second of flight when you're first starting to train. The place that we train at here in Anchorage is called Gottstein Park. I don't know if you went there or not, but it's basically like a 40-foot tall hill. Yeah, it's like a plateau. And on the plateau, you got the nice wind that comes up that little 40-foot hill. And you'll fly maybe 50 times off of that. And then maybe you'll graduate to a larger hill where you get 30 seconds of flight. And then you maybe a minute of flight. But to get your full first certification, it's 28 flights that are 300 feet in altitude or 1,000 feet in distance. So that's what they consider a flight. So it's gonna take you, if you were training all day every day, it's gonna take you, a couple weeks to a month to get 30 real flights, and that's if you're hammering it out, and that's all you're doing is training.
Yeah, and that's also dependent on the weather, right? So you're not
Yes.
going when it's gusty or nobody's going to
No.
let you go.
No.
Tell me, how long is the setup? Once, because I imagine, like you said, kite surfing. So I've got a buddy that does that in the Middle East because the winds are pretty good and, the weather is good. How long is that setup to get your equipment into
Like
action?
like from backpack packed up to flying.
Yeah.
Oh, it could be like 5 minutes or less. It could
Oh,
be a
yeah?
couple minutes.
Oh, okay.
I have a couple setups where I just have it completely hooked up already, where you step into the harness, and if the wind's right, you pull your wing out, throw it up into the air, it boom inflates because you have these skills to do so, and you could be off the ground in minutes.
Wow. Okay. Because his setup was, I was
It's
like,
pretty
man,
involved with the
yeah.
kite surfing. The lines are really long. You have to sometimes inflate your wing up with a pump, and they're tricky.
Yeah, I've seen him do it once, and I'm like, dude, I'm not doing this, man. I'll
That's
go
a
ride a
lot.
I'll go ride a bike, and I've got 10 miles in before you even are ready to go. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a little bit difficult. Cool. And then you pass all that, and once you've got is that like an FAA certificate as well?
We have our own governing body called, we call it USHVA, United States Hang Gliding and Paragliding Association. They call it Paraglider 1. That's like you're a student, and then you can do actual flights under the guidance of an instructor. And that's 0 hour stuff. You take a paper test. You're usually going to take that test and get that level of certification within a couple days to a week. But P2, Paraglider 2, you've had 28 flights that are real certified flights with an instructor on the radio. And by the time you get a P2, you can fly by yourself without an instructor. 28 flights might seem like a small amount, but it can take you 6 months to get that. In that time frame, you're still training on smaller hills. You're still going to get flights that maybe aren't a certifiable flight, time and distance and altitude. And a lot of places require you to have Paraglider 3 to really fly. Like if you go to like Torrey Pines Flight Park in California, or maybe Point of the Mountain at Utah at Salt Lake City, they're going to want you to have much more than a P2, a Paraglider 2. We kind of consider that first certification that you get, the Paraglider 2, as like getting your driving permit. Like,
Okay.
yeah, you can drive the car, but you don't know shit. You still need to know, you're still going to learn a lot. And by the time, like, I was so excited to get my P2, and I was like, yeah, I've done it. But then when I got it, I was like, oh my God, I'd never flown by myself. I'm in Alaska in the mountains. I don't have cell phone service because I'm in Alaska in the mountains. And I have this bed sheet I just laid out and I'm gonna fly by myself. You still don't know that much by the time you get certified. But having a mentor is good for you too. To go with you.
Yeah. Well, a good thing that I'm hearing from you is you had that, the thought in your head that I really don't know much and I'm not going to go crazy, because there's a lot of people that think that they just they get their certificate. So they, now they absorbed all the information. They know better, and then that's how they get in trouble. So
There's no plateau to learning, with
yeah,
aviation. It's just there's a lot of letdowns in aviation because you get a lot of firsts. Like my first time having a little collapse, my first time thermaling, even with fixed wing, my first check ride. Well, how much better did you really get after your first check ride? You know, there's a lot of like firsts that you think that after you get that first moment that things are going to change, and they really don't. It's a lifetime of learning. It's chess, not checkers. Whenever you leave the ground,
yeah, and it's good to know that every time you pick up on something new, I always tell people that no flight is the same, right? And it's the same for you. You could be going off the same hill, same weather conditions, and yet something always happens that is different, right? That kind of teaches you how to react, and something maybe you didn't notice the first time you went from that same location, right?
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Awesome. So then you get flying, and then you go on your own. How was that first day? Tell me about it. How
Oh
was
my God, my very first time without an instructor, I had to make an emergency landing in this tiny little hole of trees because I realized that I didn't inflate the wing in a quick, snappy manner. And I was just like kind of lagging, running slow down the hill. So I didn't take off quite as quickly. So I lost a lot of altitude. And I already knew it was going to be like a short little flight. So then I realized immediately I wasn't going to make the landing zone. I was over top of a sea of trees. So I had to pull this emergency like spiral down to this tiny little hole in the trees and make it not a crash landing, but definitely an emergency landing. And it was just I was like, damn, I need to be smarter about this. I need to get those. I need to get that wing up and running.
Yeah. It's how we learn, man. Experience, right?
Yeah.
At least it was a learning experience, and then you kind of walked away from it. But yeah, I could see how that, you kind of get that adrenaline going, and now, I'm signed off. I can go fly on my own, and you were alone. There was nobody
Oh,
around you.
completely alone. Like when you're paragliding too, you don't have a radio to call anybody. You are alone, and you're up in Alaska. Like, man, it's sometimes you feel quite isolated.
And do you guys have like a community where you sort of go online and there's people that say that, in this and this location, or is it just mostly, hey, I wake up on Saturday and I'm like, well, the weather is nice. I'm going to go to this place. How does
It's
that work?
mostly just yeah, the weather's good, go for it. We do have like a local message board thing, but it's not like we're checking in to anybody before we have a flight. I'll tell the wife, hey, I'm setting up, and then I tell her when I land.
Yeah.
Now I've done it so much, it's just setting, safe. Like it's just a one word text because it's just so like I said, 1 to 200 flights a year, sometimes
Wow.
three in a day.
Well, that's pretty cool. And then so you said that park, what's your favorite location then in Anchorage? What, like your favorite spot?
Um, my go-to spot that I fly the most is Flat Top, and it's our most popular hiking spot too. And it's like, no matter where you are in town, it's 20 minutes away. And I've probably done 400 to 500 flights off of that. And I still find new ways to fly it and new conditions to fly it in and new little cliffs to jump off because it's like a spicy takeoff. I'm so surprised that it's such a popular place because it is a hard hike. Like it's pretty sheer and steep and it's a cliff.
How long does it take you to come up?
About 30 minutes to 45 minutes. But if I'm like lapping it over and over again, sometimes I'll do it 2, 3 times. I'll land in a certain area and it'll probably only take me like 25 to 30 minutes to get back up again. And it's surprising, like the second time you hike it, you always feel better than the first one because you're like warmed up and ready.
Right.
And you're always like, oh, I'm going to be dead. But no, it's always better the second time. And you tell people, oh, I hiked 2, 3 mountains today. It's like, well, I didn't hike down. hiking down is what really wears you out.
Yeah, like running downhill, right? I
Yeah,
did a hike and I go over Asia, but there's a couple places in Hong Kong where you go up this, it's called Victoria Peak, and you go up and people are like, oh, that's, tough walk up. And I'm like, I didn't find that tough. I found that a lot harder coming down because
yeah,
it was just my legs were cramping up because it's a lot more resistance for me down than actually going up. Up was great. I wanted to jog it up,
yeah,
That wasn't
yeah.
an
Just get a
issue. So
paraglider.
that's
Just get a
it,
wing
right?
on your back.
And you laugh, but I flew with a guy. We had a trip where we flew to Dubai, and then after a day, we got on a commercial flight and we flew to Paris, and we had 3 days off. And this guy, as soon as we landed, I see, like talking about your equipment, he had this big backpack, and I'm like, dude, what would you bring a tent with you? And he goes, no, I'm paragliding. I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, as soon as we land, I'm taking a flight
Nice.
2 hours later. And he goes to a place in France. I forget the name that is very popular. They fly around this lake. There's kind of mountainous areas, but nice lake. And he goes, I'm going straight there. I'm going to drive from Paris. It's going to take me 4 or 5 hours. And he goes in and you flew for 2 days. And he goes, I'll see you in Paris in 2 days. If I don't, then I know something happened, but he made it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty cool. So how heavy is that equipment?
Well, nowadays we're in like the golden age of paragliding where your heaviest full size setup would be like 20, 30 pounds of just everything you're going to bring, like big water bottle, extra reserve parachute, full size wing, full size pod harness where you have like your legs encased in a pod. Or now they make a wing that's a single surface harness that looks like lingerie and it weighs like 2 pounds for a pound for the whole thing. And that one, they call it the run and fly because people will trail run and fly off with it because it's so light. And, every size in between too. It's a complete quiver sport where it's kind of like saying, I ride bikes. Well, do you road bike? Do you downhill mountain bike? Do you normal mountain bike? Are you an e-biker? Do you ride a tricycle on the side of the, there's so
Yeah.
many different wings, but the heaviest one is going to be like a 20 pound to 30-pound setup.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like you said with bikes. It's like yeah, I could try that. So you keep upgrading, and there's always room to
Yeah.
spend that money, right?
Yeah. I have like 8 wings right now. And of course, I've got my mind set on like two or three more that I want. It helps out when you have a wing sponsor, but,
Yeah.
uh, you know, there's so many toys out there.
And what is to get started? What would the cost be of something like that?
Well, the training to get to like your P2 level where you could fly by yourself is usually around 2 grand to 3 grand, no matter what school you go to. And then your gear, if you're going to buy new, expect to spend around 5 to 6 grand for your whole first setup. So you could be out, like 8 to 10 thousand for your very first year.
Okay.
But that's on the extreme end. Um, it's kind of like motorcycles where your first motorcycle you're going to outgrow. Your first wing you're going to outgrow pretty quickly. You could because of just the way it's tuned and the way it's meant to be a safe glider. It's not really meant to climb really well or travel really far. It's meant to teach you the basics. So a lot of times people will buy a used wing. Like I got a buddy right now who's going to start training in 2 weeks. We found him a used wing for 900 bucks. He's buying a new reserve and a new harness, and he's going to be in at like 3 grand,
That's
maybe
not
two and
bad.
a half altogether. You still got that training that's going to be at least 2 grand.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of an investment, but you find me one other aircraft that you can go and enjoy like that with that much money. Even learning to skydive is insanely more expensive. And I'm really glad I didn't go skydiving because just the gear alone is like 10 grand for a skydiving. And the
Yeah.
training is going to be like 3 to 5 grand just to get your first license. And then you're paying $50 or more each jump. And then
Right.
you're waiting at the drop zone, waiting for some guy to quit smoking his bong so he can tell you to get on the flight when you could have just gone and hiking in the mountains with your buddies and you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's anything you put your hands in it. It's the same as like my daughter was, she did various sports, but she swam, and I always thought, why are we paying so much? It's just water, right? So it's a hole with water in it, and
Yeah.
we're paying the same amount as we paid for, lacrosse. Like, how does that? It always ends up costing money, and you're just yeah, but once you get that bug, and I could see just you always want to upgrade, you always want to try something new, like you said, you want to do the short wing and kind of want to go faster, I want to go a little crazier, and there's
Yeah.
always there's always room, right? Awesome. So you're in Alaska, and when you said you guys have a little like a forum, are there places where people go like, hey, I tried this, they give you a location and said, hey, this is a nice spot? Is it something you guys share with each other, or is that more of
Oh
a
yeah. Um, the one thing I really enjoy about the Alaskan outdoor community is there is no gatekeeping going on. Uh, like Colorado and other places, it's real gatekeepy. Like nobody wants to tell the secrets of where the goods are because everybody's fighting for a smaller area. We are a tiny population of people to a huge area, and we just are stoked that anybody wants to fly, and we are always opening new sites. Mostly in the Speedwing world, we're opening new sites because we're not on the Speedwing, we're not really aiming to go up or travel anywhere. But on the full size glider, it's more like how far can we push from this spot? And we have a spot that's dedicated and easy to get to, and you park right next to it. You walk 5 minutes, and it's a big mowed off area, and there's always thermals right there. And it's always full size paragliding is all about gaining altitude and extending your flight. So as far as like new spots, there really isn't much of that goes on these days. It's more like where did you get to, and um, you can get to some super cool stuff. Like there's people that will take off from this site in Eagle River, Alaska, and they'll go all the way like hours driving distance away to like this 7,000-foot tall peak called Pioneer Peak with their pack raft, go land at the base of a glacier and pack raft back to civilization. That's the kind of adventures people are getting into. But, the circle back to your question, oh, yeah, we're always telling people where the goods are. And just the way that Anchorage is shaped, it's kind of like a triangle. So if the wind's coming one way, and there's valleys all over the place, right? So there's always good wind somewhere. If it's not working here, it's working over there. And it's very rarely conditions where you can't fly anywhere. If it's, raining or snowing, of course you can't. But like, we're always posting on our page and where to go here and who's coming to this. And yeah.
So what's the coolest spot that you would consider in around Anchorage?
It all depends on what kind of wing you want to fly and it's all cool to me, honestly. I don't care if it's a tiny little sledding hill at a schoolyard or if it's a 7,000-foot mountain that we're going to start hiking at 3 o'clock in the morning. It, it's all great, but maybe Baldy and Eagle River is a cool one just because it is maintained and there's like a big culture of like old men that have been flying since the 80s there, like Vietnam helicopter vets. And you're like, God damn, I could do this forever. Um, Halfway to Girdwood, like an hour, like half-hour drive south. There's some really good flying too in Turnagain Arm, the place where there's the boar tide. I don't know if you've heard of the boar tide surfing.
No.
Well, in the Turnagain Arm, it's an inlet that's really shallow and it has some of the biggest tide changes in the world. So when that tide change comes in, there's a huge wave huge, maybe like 6, 8 feet at the very highest that comes in. But people will be surfing that. And if you could time it to where you're flying in the air while people are surfing down below you in this beautiful Alaskan landscape with, mountains all over, and, it's just
Nice shot, huh?
magic. It's just magic area. There's so many cool places. It's hard to pin down
Have you been
one.
up by Alyaska and all that to go from there?
Yes, I have. There's some cool places there. There's really good speed riding is what we call it, where you have a small wing and you're on your skis. There's really good skiing and speed winging
Man,
around there.
so that's almost like kite surfing, huh? A little bit.
A little bit. We're not looking for wind like that. We're on a speed wing. You're looking for no wind at all
Oh, okay.
and no thermals at all too. You don't want bumpy, choppy air. You want nice, smooth air so you can fly 100 miles an hour close to the ground and crank some barrel rolls and drag your foot on the ground as you go by, more like a wingsuit flight
Is
would be.
and is that something you have on your profile? One of those
Oh
flights?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I got stuff like that on. That's what I mainly am doing is flying very fast, very high performance wings that you have a lot more control than people would ever imagine you could have. Like at any moment, I could just pop up and go out of it, and at any moment, I could dive it and point it straight down at the ground and speed it up to 100 miles an hour straight down to the ground.
Okay. And then you seem to have good control. Sorry, pretty good control in that kind of a small wing, or how?
Yeah, you really do. I mean, your rate of descent, you're going to be going down, but you can still pop up and avoid things and turn around things, and you still have a lot more control. People think that, like, they watch my videos and they're like, wow, the wind must have been bad because I was doing barrel rolls. Like, no, I'm doing that on purpose. Or the wind almost pushed you down to the ground. It's like, no, I did that on purpose. And that's actually pretty hard to get down to the ground and be safe with it and not just like randomly aim towards the ground. But we have so much more control over these wings than what anybody thinks is imaginable.
Yeah, the comments are the best, right? From people that sort of have basically no idea.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
guy, look, he almost did them. Like, well, no, I, I meant to do this. It wasn't like
Yeah.
some sort of a mistake. That's cool. And what was your coolest place you've flown so far?
Coolest was probably that 7,000 foot peak that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I've been so focused on skills for so long that to me it's more like individual flights that I've gotten done, and especially being a Speedwing guy, it's more like you rehearse the dance and you dial that line in really well and you try to perfect that gully. You I want to turn here, be a foot off the ground in this gully where it's like this, and then pop up and do a barrel roll, skim right off the ground into another gully over here. It's kind of more like a precise dance that I'm looking for. But the coolest mountain I flew off of was Pioneer Peak, and we started hiking at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we got up there and we took off at around 6,500, almost 7,000 feet, and that was a long one. That was a cool one.
Nice. So a day where you went out and you thought you had everything dialed in, you had it all figured out, and then something happened where you weren't expecting. Anything ever happened to you like that where you kind of thought, well, I've got this plan, this is pretty easy, and then this is how it's going to go, and then something just came up out of the blue where it completely kind of surprised you?
Yeah, a lot of times when you have a full size wing, you're wanting a day that has a lot of thermal activity. You guys would call it turbulent in a small fixed wing. We are looking for that turbulence because that's the hot air going up. And a lot of times you find whenever air is going up, there's air going down. So sometimes you find sink, and there's times where I've caught a pocket of sink where I was going down at 1,200 feet a minute. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's almost falling downwards. And one time that happened to me where another thing too, you're always concerned about weight, how much weight you got over your wing. And I had just lost a bunch of weight. I'd quit drinking, so I dumped like 30 pounds, and I was at the very bottom of the certified weight range on this wing, where the more weight you have on it, the faster it's going to fly. Uh, it's less likely to collapse also. So I was at the very bottom. I'm flying really slow, and when you're flying slow, you kind of like putter around and like it it can make it so you land out in a place you don't want to because you don't have the speed and the authority to get to somewhere.
Hmm.
So I thought I was gonna fly like, for hours, but I caught this pocket of sink that was like 1,200 feet a minute going down on a very lightly loaded wing, and it's wanting to collapse, and I'm fighting it and fighting it. I had to land in a neighborhood with all these light poles sticking up, and it was awful. And it just like, and then you get close to houses, and houses have a lot of hot air coming off of them, and it's just getting more and more and more turbulent to the point where I was like 20 feet off the ground, and I just lost complete control of the glider, and it was wanting to spin. So the wing, it's like it's like a fingernail shape. Well, it can flex, so it can flex like this, and then one part of it's flying forward, and the other part that's actually the backside of it turns into an airfoil too. So then you just spin, and I spun down to the ground, almost hit an RV, break my wrist. Sounded like a water bottle hit the ground when I broke my wrist. And I'm in this neighborhood, and there's a guy pushing a stroller with this kid. He's like, "Jake, are you okay?" I look up at him. It's my current wife's ex-boyfriend from high school. High school sweetheart is just standing there. And I'm like, God damn it. My wrist is all blown up. And yeah, things can happen for
And
sure.
this sounds, I mean, just to break, I don't know if you ever flown in the airplanes, but that's exactly how a spin happens is you get lift over one wing, but not the other. And then that wing wants to drop and it kind of forces you and it goes into this little circular motion. So it is very similar, how it all kind of tangles together, right? That you could be on a
Yeah.
paraglider and an airplane and it acts the same way. But
They're all airfoils.
yeah, that's all,
It's
man.
just an airfoil. A flexible one too. So
Right.
that's
Yeah. Wow. Any plans of going somewhere out of US or where are the best places? You mentioned Colorado and California.
California has some cool spots. Utah at Salt Lake City has a very popular some cool spots. Morocco is very cool. France, of course, is huge. I don't know. I just want to go all over. Right now, I'm kind of me and my wife are just sticking it to Alaska. We just put her through college, so the funding isn't quite there for some big trips. But there's good flying all over. There's paragliding schools all over too. So anybody can really train and learn basically where they're at. Even if it's a flat area, like down in Texas is where the world record is. People will be towed up by a plane, usually like an ultralight, will tow you up a little bit. And I think the record's 350 miles right
Wow.
now. They get
And
those good clouds, good cumulus clouds, and
oh yeah.
underneath every one of those clouds is a thermal holding it up there. So we shoot for that stuff.
I'm sure you heard of that story because the guy I was flying with told me about, the place they go in it's either in Nepal or Pakistan where a guy jumped off, got into a CB and got sucked in and he was in there
Yep.
for hours and he made it. He was, had frostbite and all that, but he made it down.
Yeah, there's a few people that have been sucked up, and I think one of them made it to like 32,000 feet.
Yeah, insane. I mean,
Incredible.
yeah, and yet the guy survived. I know there was some girl that didn't, but this guy goes. I mean, and they just got his ass absolutely handed to him because he's in there in those
Yeah,
winds and
he lost
hail.
an eye because it froze.
Yeah,
It was so cold up there, he froze his eyeball. It was
yeah, man.
wild.
Yeah, but I mean, I know you want to go flying, but I think I'm sure you as well check the weather and what are there could be
Oh
some
yeah.
bad spots. So Yeah, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
he's just like all aviation. We're all completely obsessed with weather. Every time you're on your phone, you're like, your wife's like, you just scrolling again? Like, no, I'm weathering. It's just
Yeah,
all the time.
it's gonna be windy tomorrow. I'm the same with this little airplane I got. Same thing. Every time I want to go fly, and if I'm taking somebody, I'm not taking them. And for me, it could be bumpy. I don't care. But if I'm taking somebody new or a little bit lightheaded, I sort of avoid those days, and
Or
especially
a
in the
little
little,
queasy.
yeah, yeah, like today. Yeah, it's funny, man. The guy's still texting me. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm really sorry." I'm like, "Hey, it happens," but yeah. Um, well, that's awesome. And then now, when did you decide to start filming and kind of making this a little bit of a profile? And you've got a pretty good following, huh?
Yeah, it kind of happened by accident. I mean, I didn't really think about it too much. Like, I had a GoPro, like Hero 9, and it sat on my shelf until like the 12 came out, and I didn't film anything. And hundreds of flights of just, I still don't care about that part of it. Now it's just like another hobby I have is the making the videos and stuff. But I was flying with my dog for a little bit, and people were like, "Why aren't you filming that? You're stupid." And I was like, whatever. I do it for me and the dog. It's just when I fly with the dog, it's time to be chill. I don't really care about cameras. At least at that point, I didn't. I still really don't. But then I posted one video of me flying with the dog, and you have a Malinois, you know how it's pumped they get sometimes. And he just got so excited, and I was like, all right, this is a cool video. We'll post this one. And it got like 2 million views instantly. And I was like, whoa, all right, I guess people want to see this. I guess I'll have some fun with this. And I posted another video, and it got like 2 or 5 million like in a day. And I was like, okay, I might be onto something. And then I just kept kind of having more fun, not really pushing it. And then now it's kind of turned into where, uh, like, I Google searched the most highly viewed paragliding video the other day, and what came up was my number two most viewed video. And I was like, oh shit, well,
Nice.
I'm definitely onto something now. And it's just kind of organically happened. I didn't really mean for this to happen. And then now there's all these lovely people reaching out, like you, wanting me to be on your podcast. And if there was I don't really have a goal with my videos. I just want to like be rad and film. Like, I grew up being a skater kid, and when you're a skater kid, you do a lot of filming and editing of your own videos. And I always thought that was fun. But it's been really fun to do it now with my flying and to actually like see something be made out of it. And yeah, it's been a wild ride,
So
that's for
tell me,
sure.
so how did the idea of you going with your dog happen? I mean, how did this spark? How did you even come up with this idea? Because it's not something that you go like, oh yeah, man, I think I'm gonna go fly with my dog.
Well, I was, like I said earlier, I was drinking and got sober. I was a horrible alcoholic, and I got sober, and I've been thinking about getting a dog. And I was like, I didn't think I'd be a good dog owner because I'm flying 1 to 200 times a year, doing a thing you can't bring your dog with. That's eating up like most of your free time, a lot of my free time. And I saw my friends up here were fly with his little dog, like a lap dog, and I was like, just bring him with. And then I saw another guy on the internet who flew with his dog, and I was like, I can just fly with my dog. That's just a thing you can do. And then it was kind of in the back of my mind for a little bit, but um, that I got sober, and it was the first St. Patty's Day that I had gone through sober. I had been thinking about getting a dog. My wife was gone at college. I was up here alone, just flying like a nut. I flew like 100 times, and like from September, if you went to school in August, by the time October rolled around, I'd already done 100 flights. So I was just going into it, and I was like, thinking about getting a dog. So I was alone, and this event came up on St. Patty's Day, and I just went to go look, just to go look. And then, of course, he picked me and like the movies, and it's just been that ever since. And it's pretty ridiculous. But if you're going to be in my life, paragliding is just going to be a part of your life. Because I'm just so like you, flying is going to be a part of your life if you're involved with your life. I'm sure because you just do it so much. But we just started immediately training, and like from the moment I got him, I was like, "You're going to fly." And I was telling the people that I was at the rescue place with that like I'm going to take this dog flying. And they're like, "What?" And they almost didn't even give me the dog because he was a
Yeah,
Malinois.
this guy's unstable.
But the person who was working the event knew me from the rock climbing world, and I was a pretty adventurous rock climber too. Big, big scary climbs and stuff. So she knew me, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you'd be great for this dog." I didn't even know what a Malinois was when I
Yeah.
got him. I had no idea that kind of dog existed. So I FaceTimed my wife. I texted my wife, and I was like, "I think I found my dog." And she's like, "Show me." So I FaceTimed it, and she's like, "That's a goddamn Malinois. What is wrong with you?" And I was like, It's just that's my dog. His name is Pickles. He's already named." And it's like, "This is Pickles. He's gonna be my dog." She's like, "Well, if there's anybody be good at it, it'd be you." And so we just started basically training right away and taking him out to the little sledding hills, and he would run after me while I'm doing little flight, like second long flights, and it just slowly snowballed into flying with me in tandem, hooked up, having a blast. He just thinks it's his whole life. He's been doing it since he was 4 months old. So
Oh, I mean, I would try to put goggles on mine. I'd like to see what happens because I'm always amazed. I watched another video of a guy flying with his dog, and he puts him in his, in this seat next to him. He puts on headphones and straps him in, and the dog's just there. And I'm like, man, I can't imagine mine just sitting there. And he's like, well, there's some goggles. Just chill and look out the window. And
you know how smart they are. You have one. I mean,
yeah,
when the goggles comes out, he gets nuts because he knows we're about to go flying. So now it's kind of like associated with that. And it took some training to get the goggles on. But
yeah. I was showing my wife one of your videos, and I go, look, and she goes, what? I go, yeah, that's like ours is black. He's
yeah,
yeah, but he same energy, and I go, look, we need to do that with mine. Put him in the airplane, and she goes,
hell
yeah,
yeah, do it.
let's see. So, but it's amazing, yeah, how quickly they pick up on things, and you just have to show them once, and then God,
Yeah.
they remember. Yeah, amazing. So, how many flights have you done with him?
I don't really track my flights too hard, but I'd say he's probably around 50 to 80.
Wow.
We don't go out every day. We only go when the weather is good. Um, when the weather is chill, there's not really any thermals. Sometimes we'll go on a ridge lift day where there's like, 5 to 10 miles an hour in the face. But I don't really want to go on a big thermaling day with him just because it can be a lot of bumps in that
Okay.
environment, in that arena. Um, and also, like, I'm a Speedwing guy. I usually never fly that. I only fly that chill with the dog. I'm always flying really fast and really low to the ground. So it's all almost like when I want to chill also. But a lot of times we will go to like a medium-sized hill and he will chase after me and it'll be like a minute flight for me and I'm flying like right over top of him and he'll run like a mile or two to me. And he really likes that too.
Oh, of course. Yeah, those the best part is I take mine. Um, we'll go out run, and I'll go for like a 3 mile run. And to him, that's not even a sniff, right? And we get
Oh,
back
that's nothing.
home. I'm drinking water. I look over to the side, and he's got a ball in his mouth, and he's like, "Backyard,
Yeah.
let's go." I'm
Have
warmed
you ever
up.
hooked him up to you? Like hooked him up to you like on a ski joring setup and have him pull you as you run? Have you ever done that? Have you ever
No,
seen people do that?
yeah, I've seen that.
That's a
Yeah, yeah.
that's fun too.
But I'm afraid that he'll like how they are. He finds something, just
Oh yeah.
stops, and I go right over him, man.
We really, really like to go skate joring where I have ice skates on or rollerblades on.
Yeah.
And we'll do that every day on my lunch break. There's a nice Anchorage has 200 miles of paved bike trail. So there's a good little loop around my work. He comes to me to work. He's the shop dog at the
Oh
welding
yeah.
shop.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
we're always together.
And then your daily job is a welder, right?
I'm a welding quality control guy.
Okay.
So I'm I'm in my office most of the time where I'm looking at welds, or I have a guy underneath me looking at welds while I do more like administrate. Like think about all the laws that would be associated with like pipe in a nuclear facility or pipe in a oil refinery. Like you would think there'd be laws around that because there is. And I kind of navigate all that stuff.
Okay. So more of a from an audit
Quality
size.
assurance.
Yeah. Okay. Quality
Yeah.
assurance. Cool. Cool. I guess there's a big demand in that little market too, right? Welders
Yeah,
and
especially in Alaska. We have a lot of oil stuff going on.
I had a girl on that flies, and her husband. Her husband flies a helicopter. If she flies in an airplane for this outfit, I forget the name. They've got it's a twin otter, and she hops around all these little oil places. Um, trying to figure. I'll look it up. I'll text it over to you. But yeah, she's all over the place. They'll do like, I'll text her. I go, yeah, I'm flying back from China. It's 9.5 hours. And she does a 12-hour day, and she probably lands 12 times in some,
Yeah.
little airports. And they just go, the shortest flight is probably like 5-6 minutes just from one to another, but they're not accessible by road, so they have to get in there only by airplane, right? That's the beauty of Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a fun
awesome.
place.
Yeah, I'm a little I'm jealous of you that time you spent with your dog flying because I'd like to get mine and see if I can get him trained to get in my airplane, strap him in, and see how you would react.
Such a
Uh,
chill activity for such a gnarly dog, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, because they always want task, right? They're always looking for something, right? Give me something to do.
Yeah.
And I've got another dog, but that one is more interested in twice a day when he eats, and then he just goes to his little corner and doesn't come
Yeah,
out.
I don't know if Pickles is just chill. We call him the decaf Malinois because he's chill. Well, I also do a good job of running him out.
Yeah,
So of course we got another Malinois, and he's an absolute nutcase.
yeah.
It's bad. He's a wonderful dog, but man, he is 10 times crazier. That's more my wife's dog. She won't let me fly with him yet, but
No,
I'm sure I'll talk her into it.
how old is he?
He is 5 months old,
Oh, okay. So yeah, he's
so
in
he's
age
extra
that
extra crazy.
he's gonna rip things apart. Yeah, we brought ours. He was what was he 5? Yeah, he was right around that age, and we rescued him. So we did you do the same, or did you get him from a breeder?
Yeah, I when I got him, it was at a rescue event, and they got him from a California place that had like all Malinois rescues. And I don't know what his background is, but they got like 5 or 6 of Malinois from the California place shipped up to Alaska for this event. And I don't know where he came from or his background, but like our first time in the mountains, they're glued to you, So I let him off the leash and I sprinted up this hill to see what he would do. And he grabbed onto my arm like a cop dog, and he was wanting to take that thing home with him. And I don't know if he flunked out of some cop academy or something, but I definitely didn't train him to take my whole arm off. So
Oh,
I'm glad we've never had any moments like that ever again. But
yeah,
I don't, yeah, yeah,
yeah. It's funny how these or this the breed wasn't that popular until people found out that they're not big, they're not heavy, but they sure can do a lot of damage, right?
yeah, they're great dogs. So
Oh yeah, no, amazing. Yeah, he is very territorial because with the other dog, it's funny. The other one is older, and same with us. Like my wife would come down in a robe, and he'll be grabbing at her ankles, and won't even want to let her go down the staircase. And it's hilarious how it's in their mind that he's got to be doing something, right? Controlling something. He's
yeah.
got to be, hurting, and yeah, it's incredible. Love to breed. That's awesome. So tell me, with a following like that, you were mentioning that you got some sort of a sponsorship with one of the companies for the wings.
Yeah, I have between Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. I have somewhere around like 350,000 followers, I think, right now, which is just insane to me. I would still live the same exact life if I had none. But I've gotten a wing sponsor, an ice skate sponsor, some dog supplement stuff sponsors, couple more. I just got sponsored yesterday by DJI cameras,
Nice.
the 360 cameras. But the one I'm most proud of is Fluid Wings, and they are an American-made glider company. They specialize in high-end parachutes for skydiving for a long time, and they're just now breaking into the Speedwing market, and they're releasing a full-size paraglider here at the end of this month, and we'll be showcasing that here
Awesome.
shortly.
Yeah, it's nice. It's always nice to get free stuff too. Right?
Yeah, 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 it is.
Oh, that's cool, man. Very, especially happy for you that you got on the right track without drinking. That's the best part.
Yeah, yeah, I would have been dead by now for
Yeah.
sure. Like, yeah, like I said, I'm an Alaskan oil field welder. Before I was doing quality assurance, I was welding on that level called a specialty welder, where you're welding crazy alloys that no one had ever heard of. And being an oil field welder, that's just code word for alcoholic.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I pulled my head out of the sand,
Good.
and just celebrated 3 years
Awesome.
last week or the week before.
It's always good to have a little something to fall on, and then if you occupy your mind with your paragliding and wherever else that takes you, that's a lot better than having
Yeah,
your head buried in or sitting in a bar and then just kind of watching it all
yeah.
go waste away. So that's good, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So last thing I wanted to ask you and I forgot was when you're flying, how different is it between a summer and a winter day? What are your sort of considerations? How do you approach one of those or each of those?
Well, a winter day, you know, cold air is more dense, more smooth. And in the winter also, we have a ski resort that lets us fly on our skis. The only place in North America. Nowhere in Canada or anywhere this side of the pond.
Wow.
So we're looking for, just no matter, but honestly, no matter what time of year, we are surfers of the wind. We are always looking at the wind and what's going to happen at different altitudes. Windy premium is a good buy. Dial in that altitude of where you're looking for. Um, but in the winter, just any time that the wind is blowing up right, and when you're as addicted to it as I am, you don't really care about the cold too much. In the summertime, you're looking for, just the same thing, good wind. But if you're looking to get like a nice long cross country flight, you want the lapse rate to be really high. Like you want a really big thermal difference between morning and night, or you want a day that might overdevelop in the afternoon, or you want, just like a sunny day that the temperature is going to rise like 20 degrees in the day. And in the springtime, we get that a lot, and in the fall. In the springtime, it's pretty common for people to fly for hours and hours and hours and have climbs that can be 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 feet a minute of climbing. And that is best achieved in the spring before the trees bud. Because once the trees bud and the leaves are out, it like holds the heat down into the ground.
Wow.
And if you catch it before then, when there's still like a little bit of snow in the mountains, but it's clear down in town, and say it was like 30 degrees at night and it's going to go up to like 55, you're going to have ripping thermals all day to the point where it's going to feel like you're falling up. The amount of power that's out there in the air is just incredible. And once you can learn to take it and ride it and go up with it, it's just magical. But the conditions just vary so much that you're looking for, but it's all based on wind.
But it's incredible to hear how what you're looking for, like you said, with the leaves and a little bit of snow here, but not there. How after,
Yeah,
like you start picking up on these things and you don't even realize
yeah.
when you're looking outside, you're like, well, it's just, just leaves. But then you're like, well, that's going to stop me from getting more thermals. And you're like, wow.
Well, another thing too that you guys would probably find is cool. A thermal, where is it going to release? It's going to release if you dip the world in honey and flipped it upside down, everywhere where it would drip, that's where a thermal is going to be.
Wow.
So, and then also if there's like a little bit of snow in the mountains, the thermal will like roll up the hill to that snow, find the cold spot, and then shoot straight up off of that. So if there's like a ridge line of snow, you can ride straight along that ridge line and just be climbing the whole time and not even turning in it. You just be going straight on a cloud street. Sometimes where you might see like in the mountains where there's a row of clouds right over the peaks, that's because there's a row of thermals holding up those cumes right there at
Wow.
every one of those peaks where the honey would drip, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's so many cool things. Like we're paragliding up in the air, but we're staring at the ground sometimes, you know? And like if you get scared and there's so much lift, sometimes there's so much lift you cannot help but climb.
Right.
And it's probably going to be bumpy. Go fly over a lake because that's going to be cold, you know? Or fly over that river over there, or fly over the ocean. Just there's so many. We're thinking about weather on just a completely different spectrum than a fixed wing
Yeah. I mean,
pilot
I've never
does.
even considered what you just told me. I'm like, that's incredible. Probably more if you
Yeah,
were a glider pilot, that would probably be more, something more.
yeah, it's the same premise. The
Yeah.
same on a like a super ripping hard thermal day. You could share a thermal with a glider, and we have, and
What's the
that's probably
highest?
like the highest. The highest I've ever gone, I took off at around 1100 and climbed up to around 8.5.
Wow.
And the record, the state record, I think is like 11 or 10,000 feet. And they were, we were within like 20 miles, 10 miles of the Ted Stevens International Airport. And they were, we're well within all the legal air zones and stuff.
Yeah.
But these guys were at like 10 and a half, 11 or something. And they're watching commuter jetliners go underneath them. And they're up
Yeah.
there putting around in a lawn chair.
You're like, that's not supposed to be this way. It's supposed to be the other way around. But
It's
uh,
actually really common to have planes flying underneath you at this one area in Eagle River, Alaska, because it's where it's like the mountains bottleneck,
mhm.
and one side of the highway, and right at the bottom of the mountain, there's a highway, and on the other side of the highway is military, so you can't go over there.
Yeah.
But everybody flies their small little civilian planes through there to get to the pretty mountains. So we are like the road bikers in the middle of the road. And it's just a big bottleneck, and that's right where our launch is. And I can't believe we're not shut down, but it's nothing to have five little planes fly underneath you. But when
Yeah.
a helicopter comes by, they will create a column of turbulence so bad it could ground you on a paraglider, and it will stick around for like 10, 20 minutes, that
Wow.
messed up air.
Yeah, I just saw a video of a guy coming into land, an airplane coming into land, and then the amount of wake turbulence that he got after a helicopter departed. And I was like, how? Just I
It's
couldn't
bad.
comprehend
It's
it.
so
Yeah,
bad.
and it was, man, the guy got all kind of mangled and just had to go around. But yeah, it's funny that you say that. Oh, man, so so you go up to 8.5. That's got to be nice and quiet up there, huh? Just
It is. And like the lower you are to the mountain, the bottom of the thermal is always the choppiest because it's like just like churning, and then it like develops and gets smooth the higher up you go. So if you're up that high, it's smooth. It's nice. And
yeah.
you're looking at the tiny little mountain that you took off from, and it looks like a pebble on the ground. The mountains around here are usually like around 3,000 feet of relief. And we're lucky enough to where we are like right at sea level, basically everywhere. So like if I'm saying 8,000 feet, my landing is at like 100 feet of
Yeah.
elevation off sea level. So it's like you're not in Colorado where you're taking off at 5,000 and you're only climbing 3,000. Like I was climbing 7,000 feet or more.
And then where you launch from, is there always the same place where you're going to land, or is that more of you've got a couple options and then you're planning to go sort of within an area, or is that always like, well, I'm going to land in this spot?
Well, if you're going to travel cross country and try to get somewhere, it's kind of wide open, and that's kind of the mystery and the fun of it. But we do have a designated landing zone at this like ice skating arena
Okay.
where we have a big maintained place that we mow off and take care of, and people let their dogs shit all over it. But it's or we have frozen lakes. There's a lot of lakes in that area, and yeah, it's pretty wide open though. It's just you're rolling the dice sometimes, especially when you're climbing that much altitude. You can really travel some places.
Oh yeah.
And
Once you
it's
pick up.
abundant too. It's like thermals in that much power, it's all over sometimes. It's not like going to be just that one mountain you're at. It's going to be a very widespread area where the earth is just releasing all this energy for you to utilize.
Oh, it's got to be exciting, man. So you're not like a balloon where you launch and your destination is wherever the wind is blowing, right?
No, not like that at all. Those guys are crazy. I have
Yeah.
a friend who does that, and I'm like, that is the gnarliest thing I've ever seen.
No.
They're like 5 feet off of the water, some like doing that on purpose, and I'm like, you guys are nuts. I'm sure
Yeah.
technology is good these days where you can steer it, but
Yeah. Well, there's always somebody taking it a little bit further, right?
yeah,
That's all that matters. Awesome. Well, Jake, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Really glad we got to do this, because thank God I made it, because I don't know how my schedule will be next week, but yeah, awesome. Yeah.
yeah, it was a pleasure, man. Thanks for hitting me up. I'm glad this was a fun talk to somebody who was actually like a pilot and had a gnarly Malinois and had some cool stuff to talk about. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
We've got more in common than people would think, but especially with the dogs. And then mine,
Yeah.
I could just see he's outside the door. He's already sniffing, and I could just hear the little. So ready to go. Awesome. Cool. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the weather. Is going to get a little better now in Alaska, even though, did it snow recently or no?
We had some flurries today, but it's already short season for me. It's 40 degrees and the booty shorts are coming out.
Nice. Yeah. In Alaska, 45 means tops down, right?
Yeah.
Summer's here. Yeah. I'll be up there in, I think, somewhere in towards the end of the month, because I fly through coming from Asia. So, but I'll be there for maybe 12 hours. If you wouldn't mind just telling me where people can find you, and then that way you get maybe a few more followers. I don't
Yeah.
have that many, but it's always nice to have.
Yeah. On all of the socials, the normal ones, I'm just Jake and the Flying Pickles.
But awesome. Cool. Thank you, Jake.
The plans we make and chances we take, I feel everything more with you. Quiet confidence and trusting every step, and we know that our faith will get us through. It's so obvious, forever calling us, and this time we won't wait and wonder anymore. When the morning breaks, we won't hesitate. It's the first day, it's the first page. Our story starts here. starts here. Before our eyes, now we find it all becomes so clear. Our story starts here. Constant faith in the words we say, and it makes us sure we're never letting go. It's so obvious, forever calling us. It's the first day, yeah, it's the first page. Our story starts here. Our story starts here. Before our eyes, now we find it all becomes so clear. Our story starts here. Our story is, our story is, our story is, our story, our story is, our story is, our story is, our story. It's so obvious, forever calling us. It's the first day, yeah, it's the first page. Our story starts here.